Hello, everybody, and welcome to Torn Book Club. Sorry we started a little bit late here. I've got excuse me, had a couple little things to take care of, but we're all settled now and we're ready to go. And if you notice anything different with my voice this time, it's because I'm using a brand new professional microphone, which you can see here. And this microphone is being used in order to start recording this as a podcast in addition to the web show. So welcome everybody to the first show of 2014. I hope everybody had a fantastic new year and that 2014 brings so many wonderful things for all of us. I'm sure that it will for the show, and I hope it does for all of you. So let's begin today with a little gift that I received today on our Facebook page from our regular viewer Eva. She excuse me. She made a little fan art for us, and when I say little, I mean absolutely mind-blowing. Let's bring that up here. This really made my day. This is what Eva did for us, and the detail in this image is fantastic, and I am so humbled by this piece of fan art that was done for the show. I really don't even have words for it. This is totally amazing, and I hope that we can use this in other things in the show going forward, because really that is just unbelievable. And thank you so much, Eva. That is some amazing fan art. Thank you so much, really, from the bottom of my heart. That absolutely made my day. So I also received a message from another regular contributor who I won't name here unless she wants to name herself. But it was a very heartwarming message about her struggle with dyslexia and how this show and reading Tolkien have really been helping her out. And that's another thing that is just absolutely warms my heart to know that this show is doing good for other people, and the people are so enthusiastic about it. And I just wanted to say a big thank you to all of you who have been contributing and watching since this thing first started a couple months ago. And I hope that you will continue to do so in the year ahead. So again, thank you all so much. This is a great way to start out the year with so much love and so much great contributions from other fans. And I'm so glad that people are having so much fun and enjoying this show, which is pretty much just me rambling on about books for an hour or so every week. So I do want to make a little announcement about the year ahead. Last week I had discussed a little bit about possibly moving this to bi-weekly as opposed to a weekly show. And after some consideration over the holiday weekend, I finally decided that, yes, I am going to move this to a bi-weekly show. And that is primarily just to keep my own sanity, because it's hard to keep doing this every week and coming up with fresh topics to talk about every single week. But every 2 weeks, that I can do. And also, I'm going to be working on a project with theonering.net, which I really can't discuss just yet, but it's a very fun project. that I'm hoping we'll have done in time for a certain DVD and Blu-ray release in a few months. So, so our regular announcements, as always, we have our Rewrite Tolkien contest, and since it is a new month, it's January now, we have a new contest. We also have a winner for last month's, which I will announce in a little bit. But our Rewrite Tolkien contest for January is going to be a fun one. I think we might all have a lot of fun with this one. It is The Hobbit in the style of newspaper articles. And I think that this one can be a lot of fun. It can be very creative. You can go all the way back to old style newspaper articles. You could even try doing something maybe in the style of, like, say, a BuzzFeed article or an Upworthy article or something like that, just to go crazy with it. And as an added bonus, the grand prize winner, I might end up reading that one live in the voice of one of those old 1940s newsreel announcers. You know, the kind who talk like this: Dateline, Middle-earth, that sort of thing. I think Temple is saying you could make it sound like an Onion article. Yes, absolutely. That would be hilarious. Like, really, just go nuts with this. I think we'll have a lot of fun with this one. So, let me just go over the rules for Rewrite Tolkien real quick, just so that we're all aware of them. It has to be 500 to 2,000 words long. We might alter that for the style of this contest. I don't know yet. I need to discuss that with some of the other contest runners. You would have to submit it in the body of an email that would go to rewrite_Tolkien_contest@theonering.net. Only put it in the body of the email. Don't send attachments. We will not open any attachments. And also make sure to give us your full name and your location so that we can give you proper credit if you win. And there's only one submission per contestant, so if you come up with several, try to just pick the best one and submit that one. Don't post your entry on any message boards or on any social media like Facebook or Twitter. And and if you win, if you do win, please step aside for the next 12 months to let somebody else have a chance at winning. Now, we may change this 12-month period to a shorter period just to keep things moving, because we do get a lot of submissions, but not that many. And we only got a few submissions for our Rewrite Tolkien for December, which was Rewrite Tolkien The Hobbit in the style of Charles Dickens, which I can understand. We didn't get a whole lot this month because of the holidays and because the main site of the One Ring was being used primarily for the Desolation of Smaug, which is totally understandable. So we kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit in December. So we're thinking, because this coming December is the release of There and Back Again, and is going to be a huge thing for fans worldwide, that we may skip Rewrite Tolkien for this coming December so that we can keep the focus on the movie. With that being said, we have a winner for our Dickens contest for Rewrite Tolkien. And here it is. Our winner is called... Let me bring it up on my Kindle because it's a little hard to read on screen here. It is called The Quest for Erebor, in prose, being a ghost story of Durin's Day, by, and I know I'm going to pronounce this name wrong, and I apologize, Andre Carandi from Mexico City. And I really enjoyed this one. This was a very creative, very fun entry, and as is the case with Rewrite Tolkien, Andre will now have her story read on the air by me in the best voice that I can do, and hopefully I will do it justice. I actually practiced it a little bit. This one really lends itself to a really good dramatic reading. So here we go with the winner for Rewrite Tolkien for December. The Quest for Erebor, in prose, being a ghost story of Durin's Day, by Andre Carandi of Mexico City. Stave 1. Thror was dead to begin with. There was no doubt about that. Thorin saw him fall in Azanulbizar at the hands of Azog, and Thorin's word was as good among dwarves in any corner of Middle-earth. You will therefore allow me to say emphatically that Thror was as dead as a gemstone. This must be distinctly understood, or nothing wonderful can come of the story I am going to relate. If we were not perfectly convinced that Beren had died by the wounds inflicted to him by the Hellhound, there would be nothing more remarkable in Dior being born in Dor Finigwynar than there would be of any common hobbit coming to existence in any hobbit hole in the western side of the water. Once upon a time, Thorin was counting his profits in a well-lit room in the heart of his new domains in the Blue Mountains. Business was good, and the gloomy shadows of Erebor had begun to slip away from his first line of concern, although he was sure they were never to completely go away. In short, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. The dwarves had everything before them, they had nothing before them. There was no king on the throne of Gondor, there was no king under the mountain. In both kingdoms it was clearer than crystal that the echoes of evil had triumphed, that things in general were settled forever. It was the year 2940 of the Third Age of the World, and Thorin was startled by a cheerful voice crying his way, "Happy Durin's Day, uncle!" It was Fili, Thorin's sister's son. "What's happy about it? It's a poor excuse to remind us we were driven from the halls of our fathers by a worm. Every silly dwarf with Happy Durin's Day in their mouth should be shaved clean with his own battle-axe and thrown into a feast of elves." "But, uncle..." "Nephew, you keep Durin's Day in your own way and let me keep it in mine. Good morning." Fili understood and left his uncle, who made for home only a few moments later. Thorin's rooms were a dark chamber in the dark corners of the dwarven tunnels deep in the Blue Mountains. He had lived there with his father Thrain in the early days of their exile, when their mood was too dark. As Thorin approached the door, a shadow caught his attention near the knocker. Now, it is a fact that there was nothing at all particular about the knocker on the door except that it was very large. It is also a fact that Thorin had seen it night and morning during his whole residence in that place. Then let any dwarf explain to me, if he can, how it happened that Thorin, having his key in the lock of the door, saw in the knocker his grandfather Thror's face. Thorin was startled, but immediately the knocker was a knocker again. "It's just anger," he said to himself, and entered his deep dark chambers mumbling the words of a song brought forth to memory by Fili's talk. "Far over the misty mountains cold." A gust of wind crossed the chamber, even though there were no open doors or windows to account for. A bluish glimmer appeared to emanate from the room next door, a deathly shine akin to an elven blade near a goblin. "Thorin," said a familiar voice. "Thorin." It was definitely his grandfather's voice. "Grandfather?" asked Thorin timidly, terrified and painfully aware that he was addressing a dead dwarf.
"Come forth and know me better,"
said the ghost. Thorin obeyed immediately, brought back to his childhood days in which Thror's words commanded not only him, but the entire realm of Erebor. He found the king under the mountain much similar to the way he remembered him, only wearier and carrying a long chain made of mithril and solid gold.
"Thorin, you have abandoned all plans to reclaim our land in the east.
We have a good life here, far away from the dragon."
"No excuses, Thorin. You dishonor your father Durin as I did, going elsewhere looking for wealth and riches instead of going back and reclaiming our own. The attempt on Moria cost me my life and the mercy of Aule. Look at these chains. They were forged with every day I maintained our kin away from the kingdom Aule entrusted to us. Yours was as long the day the battle of Azanulbizar."
Thorin answered amid tears. "But is there nothing you can do to save yourself? Is there nothing to regain the mercy of Aule and to go rest in the halls of our fathers with Durin and his folk?"
"Nothing left for me,"
said Thror.
"But there is still hope for you, Thorin. Tonight, you will be visited by the spirit of a wizard. Take heed of his teachings, as only they lay between you and your damnation. Wait for him when the moon reaches its zenith."
Then Thror vanished into the darkness, and Thorin was left alone in his chambers, musing over what his grandfather's ghost had told him. Stave 2. The bell announced the coming of the first hour. Thorin awoke hesitantly and found himself surrounded by a bright light, not the deathly hue of his grandfather's ghost's glow, but the glimmer of all that is good and hopeful about magic in the world. Trying to block the light out of his eyes, he got up and saw the silhouette of a tall figure with a pointy hat in the corner of the room. "Are you the spirit of the wizard whose coming was foretold to me?" asked Thorin.
"I am," answered the spirit. "My name is Gandalf, and Gandalf means me."
"Show me Gandalf. I will follow you humbly, and with a spirit willing to learn from your teachings."
"Touch my staff,"
answered the ghost whose name was Gandalf.
"We shall have to go through fire and water."
"Spirit, I am but a mortal dwarf and prone to burn and drown." The wizard spirit looked sternly at Thorin Oakenshield.
"You shall have to face fire before the end, Thorin, but fear not for now. Everything you see here are but shadows of things that have been, or things that may yet come to pass. They shall not take heed of you, and they cannot harm you. Touch the staff now."
Thorin obeyed the spirit, and in an instant his chambers vanished in a haze, and transformed into the shadows of a memory of years past, amid a crowd of merry souls. He recognized a sight very dear to his heart.
"Do you know this place?"
asked the spirit. "Know it? Here I lived my first moments of joy after our exile. Why, it's the Inn of the Prancing Pony!" Thorin was giddy as a dwarf boy first prenticed at the forge. The spirit of the wizard allowed himself a smile of joy upon seeing the face of Thorin he desired to awaken, but swiftly returned to his stern countenance.
"Thorin, we should sit down. There is much to say."
As soon as the two of them were seated, Gandalf went straight to the point of this most extraordinary meeting.
"Your kin is disgraced, Thorin, son of Thrain, son of Thror. You have met your grandfather earlier, but you do not yet know the fate of your beloved father. His penance was much harder, I'm afraid to say, found in the dungeons of the necromancer, having lost the mind with which he was left after the horrible events of Erebor."
Thorin did not speak. There was nothing he could say. Gandalf went on.
"They did not honor their royal lineage, and only timidly spoke of reclaiming their throne. They forgot dwarven ancient magic and forsook the chances the sacred days offered them.
They forsook the sacred days? Asked Thorin, appalled.
But that is right, is it not, Thorin? Every silly dwarf with happy Durin's Day in their mouth should be shaved clean with his own battle axe and thrown into a feast of elves.
Thorin then looked ashamed at his earlier words. But tell me, Spirit, are there not kind words you might offer me? Words of hope? Words of comfort?
Make for Erebor and be there on Durin's Day. I have none other. Now, touch the staff again. There is still one more thing I should have you see.
Thorin touched the wizard's rod, and the shadows of the tavern faded as his chamber had done before. Now he was on top of the misty mountains on a clear day, all of Middle-earth within his gaze to east and west.
Now look east, Thorin,
said the wizard's spirit. As Thorin turned, he saw the east, covered in flames. From the gray mountains to the ash mountains, over Mirkwood and across the Sea of Rune, there was nothing but fire and smoke. In the far northeast, a blazing speck of light gleamed above all. His voice trembling with fear, Thorin mustered the courage to ask the question to which he knew the answer well. "O Gandalf, what poor realm of Middle-earth is that blazing spot to the far north and to the far east?"
"Those are the Iron Hills, raised to the rock by Smaug and other worms from the north."
Thorin now openly cried in anguish, "But tell me, Spirit, are these the things that will come to pass, or only the things that may yet come to pass? What of my cousin Dain?"
"I see an empty throne," said the spirit. "If the shadows follow their course, your cousin Dain will die, and with him his kingdom."
"Oh, Spirit, please tell me I can yet change these events. Please tell me there is still hope." Thorin sobbed as he fell to his knees, clenching the wizard's spirit's robes in his hands. "I shall go to Erebor. I shall be there at the sacred time. The mountains shall see me at sunset on Durin's Day. I shall honor my forefather and reclaim my kingdom and my throne and be merciful and bring glory back to my people and my kin. Oh, please, Spirit!" Then Thorin opened his eyes and found himself clenching his sheets at the foot of his bed within his own chambers. He went out into the caverns and asked a young dwarf who was passing by, "Lad, what day is today?" "Why, it's Durin's Day." "I haven't missed it. Gandalf's spirit did it in one night." "Of course he did. He can do anything." "Thank you, Gandalf. Thank you, grandfather. From this day on I shall not rest until I am king under the mountain, and I shall honor the spirit of Durin's Day and his memory all throughout the year." Thorin was better than his word. He did it all, and infinitely more. Until his death he became as good a friend, as good a leader, as good a dwarf as Middle-earth knew. And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Durin's Day well, if any dwarf alive possessed the knowledge. May it be truly said of us, and all of us, and so, as many dwarves observed, may our beards grow ever longer, everyone's. The end. So that was our Rewrite Tolkien winner for December. And I really liked that one. And I hope you did too. So as I said before, our Rewrite Tolkien contest for January is The Hobbit in the style of newspaper articles. And I think this one can be a lot of fun, and I hope that you will all join in. And Light of the King is saying, "Josh, you should read audiobooks. Great dramatic voice." Wow. Okay, thank you. That's very kind of you to say, Light of the King. I don't know if I could. Maybe I'll try. I don't know. I dabbled in voice acting a little bit, but didn't really do it a whole lot. It's a very competitive industry, and it's really something that a QuickBeam would know a lot more about than I would. But so we've gone over Rewrite Tolkien. We've gone over our winner from last month, our contest for this month, and now we have our book of the month for January. Now, last week I did our list of. I stole the One Ring. You're just in time. You're asking what the book of the month is. I'm about to say so. So last week I did a list of 10 books you should read after seeing The Desolation of Smaug, and I said that one of them will be the book of the month for January, and so it is. And the book of the month for January is Pawn of Prohpecy by David Eddings. This is a book that was on the list. It was probably the last book on the list. And this is a fantasy tale that is a fairly quick and a fairly fast-paced read. And I think that this is a good, fun fantasy quest adventure that everybody can enjoy. It's one that I really enjoyed. This is a book that I really enjoyed, and I think you will too. And I'm actually looking forward to reading it again. It's not a very long book. It's only let's see how many pages it is here. It's only 262 pages, so roughly about the length of The Hobbit. And this is the first of 5 books in the series, and I don't know if we'll go into the other books in the series. This is really just to sort of whet your appetite and let you decide if this is a series you'd like to continue reading. So those are all the announcements for Torn Book Club for January. So now on to a discussion of sorts. And I wanted to talk about this subject a little bit. And it's the subject, it's a little bit of a downer subject, but it's one that I really wanted to discuss to some length on the show. And it's the subject of plagiarism. I don't know how many of you may have seen this on the news or on the internet, but last month there was a bit of a controversy with an actor whose name we all know, Shia LaBeouf, best known for being the spazzy kid in all the Transformers movies. He made a short film that ended up being almost a word-for-word copy of a comic by an author named David Clowes, who is best known for the comic series Ghost World. And he didn't credit him in any way whatsoever in the short. And so people took him to task on this and told him that he should credit him or he should pay him. And Shia LaBeouf offered an apology on Twitter that was itself another plagiarism. It was a line that was stolen from, of all things, Yahoo Answers. And it just sort of went on and on from there with him continuing to plagiarize more and more things and offering them up as apologies, skywriting an apology to David Clowes, which really felt more like a screw you, I'll do what I want kind of apology. And then one of the reporters on Bleeding Cool had a conversation with LaBeouf over email, where he started going on rants about how art is theft and all this other crazy stuff, and how nothing is original and everything is open, and Andy Warhol did it and why can't I? And it was really kind of this sort of mind-blowing cavalier attitude towards I'll take what I want, because once it's on the internet or once it's made public, then it's fair game for everybody. And I take real issue with that attitude, and I think most writers would. I experienced this a little bit myself when we put up our reviews of The Desolation of Smaug on theonering.net. We have several staff reviews up there. We have the Ringer reviews that are going through the roof. But the one that I put up, my own review, went up, I think the Sunday before the movie opened. And it got a decent response. I mean, mine was very middle of the road, and so there were people who were saying you're wrong or you're right or I agree or I disagree and all that, and that's fine. I don't mind that. But then I started noticing a few of the fan sites out there, a few other fan blogs started posting their reviews of The Desolation of Smaug, and entire paragraphs were from my review. And like, I was kind of shocked by this. So I mean, I contacted these people who were using my review in their reviews and not quoting me. I said, listen, if you want to quote me, that's perfectly fine. I have no problem with that. But at least put it in quotes, and at least cite the article that you got it from. And, a few of them agreed and did it and apologized. But then others either flat out ignored me or said that it was their right to use it how they want, which, again, I was floored. And I think that this is really bringing up, like, this kind of erosion of the idea of ownership that I feel is becoming more and more pervasive on the internet. And lots of people are saying in the chat that plagiarism is wrong, it's hugely wrong, and most bloggers don't understand that. And it's true that they don't. And I feel like this is speaking to a much larger issue of people assuming that if it's on the internet or if it's in the public, then it's fair game for us to use how we feel. And that is a real problem, because people work hard on what they put out, and you can scream like art is theft and all that all you want, but you know what? Like, this is still a very wrong thing. Like I put a lot of time into writing my review for Desolation of Smaug. I put quite a few days into writing it and editing it and making sure that it was solid. And so to see people then take that and then completely repurpose it as their own quick one-off review, like you didn't put the work in. I put the work in, and I think that kind of work needs to be recognized. In any aspect of art or creativity or writing, if somebody's willing to put in the effort and the hard work to make something that is theirs, even if it's just an article or even if it's a picture, like for instance, the fan art that Eva put up for Torn Book Club, I made sure to ask her specifically, if it was okay for me to use it on the show before I did so. She said yes, and therefore I felt it was okay. And really, that's all it takes, is just asking permission. Most people are pretty okay with you using their stuff as long as you're willing to give them credit. And the fact that people are not willing to just take that one extra step, and that they become incredibly defensive when somebody calls them out on it, is extraordinarily wrong and short-sighted. Let's look at some of the comments we're getting here, because the chat room is kind of blowing up. Let's see here. A lot of people are talking about watermarks. And yeah, watermarks can be removed. I mean, it looks like the general consensus here is that this sort of practice is wrong, and theft is wrong, and plagiarism is wrong. And yeah, it seems like a no-brainer, and yet there are still people who do it, and people who get very defensive about it when they're caught doing it. And especially in the case of earlier with Shia LaBeouf, and how he really didn't seem all that apologetic about it. In fact, he went on to talk about Andy Warhol's silkscreen prints of cans of soup, or the portrait of Marilyn Monroe. And I think that shows just an incredible lack of understanding with what Warhol was doing and what he was trying to accomplish with those works. Just to blanketly state all art is theft and therefore it's okay, is really missing the point of what Warhol was doing. And yeah, like this is a subject that I really feel very strongly about, because as a writer, I put a lot of work into what I do, and to see somebody just take it and repurpose it as their own is offensive. Even if it is just like a little fan blog with 5 viewers no one's ever going to see. Like, it's still somebody who is writing, who is not willing to put in the effort, and who would rather steal something from somebody else and pass it off as their own. And that's unfair, and that is extraordinarily wrong. Let's see. What did Garfy Mouse say here? People are agreeing with her. Hang on. Shia is an artist and should understand the effects piracy has on his own work. He's just not educated on the subject, clearly. Well, yeah, he's clearly not educated on the subject, because one thing that he went on to saying in this interview was that his entire living as an actor is plagiarism, because he's reading from a script. That is completely not understanding what plagiarism is. Because, first of all, he has permission from the director, from the producer, from the writer to read the words on that script. And more so, the producers and the directors have gotten permission from the writer to use those words. And the writers have gotten permission from the owners of, say, Transformers to create an adaptation from it. It's all above board. None of it is theft. All of it is part of a humongous project. So to say that acting is by its very nature plagiarism is to not understand acting or plagiarism. And it's this cognitive disconnect that I feel is just going to get greater and greater as the internet grows and grows, because people will continue to think that if it's on the internet, then it's for free and it's for everybody, and therefore we can use it on anything. But yeah, So this is what scares me more than anything as a writer, is this erosion of the idea of ownership. And we see it all the time with BitTorrents. We see it with all these repurposing of articles. We see it with just the very idea of just like reposting stuff in social media sort of creates the idea, especially in impressionable minds, that everything is fair game and you can take anything you want. Temple is saying, but honestly, this isn't the first time I've heard Shia say dumb things about acting. Well, yeah, that's true. Garfy Mao is saying the difference between plagiarism and piracy and the various fair use policies are hard for many to understand. And it's true. It is hard for many people to understand the nuance of fair use. But if you're going to create content, then it is incumbent upon you to understand the legality of what you're doing. And quite frankly, it's not that hard to research. There are plenty of resources out there, free ones, that you can find that will help you understand what does and does not constitute fair use under the law. And I mean, that's what I've been doing with this other project for Torn, because I want to make sure that what we're doing is all above board and that we're not stepping on any feet. And Dwena is saying, when sharing an article on Facebook, you use a link to the source. Direct quotes are important. And yeah, like quite frankly, on Facebook, it's impossible to share an article without having a link to the original article. Like, unless you were willing to take the effort to copy and paste bits of text as a status update and do that all on its own. And Temple is saying, I see a lot of interesting things go on with plagiarism on YouTube. And it's true. Like, there are definitely like channels out there that do nothing but take music or take movie clips or take pieces from TV shows and post those up and nothing more. But then there are other people who do reviews or do their own special creativity, like for instance Happy Hobbit on here on the One Ring. They use music from the Lord of the Rings movies, and the question becomes: is that fair use, or is that copyright infringement? And they've gotten into trouble a few times. They've gotten some videos taken down because they've used music from the Lord of the Rings. Because that area of fair use is more muddied, and that's really not kind of what it's really not the point of this argument. The point of the argument is just straight up copying and pasting is not okay under any circumstances, and yet people still feel that it's perfectly okay to do that. And Garfy Mao is saying he has no idea the stolen revenue takes away from the ability of the studio to create quality films. And it does. And I'll give you an example of the opposite here. When studios do this sort of thing, I don't know how many of you watch the show Glee, but I think it was last season they repurposed a cover version of the song Baby Got Back that was done by Jonathan Colton. Now, this was a very unique cover version because it was done as an acoustic ballad. And it had its own unique theme, its own unique tune, and they completely repurposed it and used it in the show and gave Jonathan Colton absolutely no credit. for it. And when it was released on the soundtrack, of course, Jonathan Colton's fans immediately took to the internet and started screaming about how they had stolen. And even Colton said, "Why didn't you ask me permission for this? Why couldn't you just like give me credit or give me a little money for this?" And the people at Fox, rather than apologizing and doing the right thing, instead they basically gave him this very smug reply that said, "You should be lucky to have the exposure that this has given you," which is so incredibly short-sighted, and it's an attitude that a lot of people in this industry have to deal with, especially the struggling ones, or the ones who are not top-tier talent. They have to deal with other people basically wanting them to work for free and telling them that you're getting more exposure from it. Let's see, Temple is saying, "I think a lot of people think of studios as huge, rich, and peopleless. They don't understand how the money gets distributed. If a film makes $1 billion, that doesn't mean the studio keeps the money." And that's very true. Things do get distributed in very, very different ways, and that's a discussion for another time about how studios kind of cook the books when it comes to making money from their products. Like to hear New Line talk about it, the Lord of the Rings trilogy has still not turned a profit after all these years, which we all know just cannot possibly be so. But what was I talking about? So, yeah, there's this attitude in this industry in particular, and it's something that even I deal with as somebody who works in a DVD and Blu-ray production. My set of skills as a DVD and Blu-ray author are very specialized. Not a lot of people can do it. And I get a lot, I know a lot of different people in a lot of different walks of life in this industry. I've been doing it for 12 years now. And I still get people who come up to me and ask me if I can make a DVD of their acting reel or their producing reel or their short film. And I always tell them I am perfectly willing to do that. But I am a professional, and so I quote them a price, and it's usually a much lower price than what I usually get paid for studio work. And they usually balk at it, and they usually will say something like, "Well, I thought you could do it for free. Don't you realize the kind of exposure you're going to be getting from working on this movie that I was in that is also co-starring like Michael Biehn or something like that?" And all I can say to that is, I'm a professional. I've worked 12 years on this. I have very strong marketable skills here. And quite frankly, I work on Star Trek. There is no level of exposure you can offer that I don't already have. And you know, I understand that there are people who are struggling. They don't have a lot of money. They've sunk their entire life savings into this one passion project of theirs, and I respect that. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that I can give my skills out for free. And nor should I, or should anybody. If you're a skilled writer, you shouldn't do it for free. There are major sites out there who go to people who have written articles for other sites and offer them basically a no-paying writing gig in order for them to get content on their site, and they paint it as you'll have great exposure from this site. And that's just not enough, because exposure doesn't pay the bills. And so we've got some other comments coming up here. So let's see. A lot of people here are posting big comments. So Lord of the Rings did make money. Once a film makes more than the cost of making it, that's when there's profit. Lord of the Rings was pretty low budget for that type of film, but even profit gets spread around. And that's true. Temple, it does. I don't want to get too much into that controversy, because there have been lawsuits over it. But Garfumau is saying, I get the same thing with travel. People want my advice, then go to book a trip on their own. Hello, I get paid to plan trips. Just because Expedia won't give you advice means you can poop on me. And that's true. Like, this is there is like this culture of, I want it for free, and I want it now, and I want you to give it to me. And that's just not correct. That's not right. And Light of the King is saying it's similar to the voice work I do. If someone wanted to use my voice for profit, they would have to ask permission. Absolutely, they would have to. And then Jan is asking, I didn't get what your job is. Could you explain it again? Okay. Very quick. My job is a DVD. I am the lead DVD and Blu-ray author at CBS Digital. Now, what authoring in the world of DVD and Blu-ray means is that all of the elements that you find on one of these discs, like the menus, the movie, the episodes, all the bonus material, if it's in different languages, all that stuff, all those things come to me. And then through my own work, I weave together a working DVD and Blu-ray out of it all. So it's kind of like programming, it's kind of like editing, it's kind of creative, it's a little bit of all. And I do it all through my computer and through the software that I use in my office. And when it's all done, I create the master from that, which then goes off to the replicator and then becomes the DVD and Blu-ray that you hold on your shelf. And I've done many, many, many titles. One of my few like real claims to fame is that I've worked on so many at this point that if you have any sizable DVD collection, odds are you have a few titles I've worked on. And Jan is asking, have you worked on any big films? I've worked on a few big things. The one big thing that I'm working on right now, let me grab it real quick. The big thing that I work on right now, and have been for the last 2 years almost, is Star Trek The Next Generation. These are the new remastered Blu-rays for the entire series. This one here is season 3. We've got up to season 5 out on shelves now. So I've got 2 more seasons to go, and then this project is wrapped up. And so that's one big title I do. I've also done, I've worked on a lot of anime, a lot of Cowboy Bebop, anything with the name Gundam on it, I worked on. Stuff like that. It's been very far and wide. Like I said, it's a 12-year career at this point. I've worked on lots and lots of things. So yeah, I've worked with many studios, and I understand like a lot of their thinking. There are some studios I've worked with that have really had some very shady business practices, and I'm not going to name them by name. But And now Garfy Mao is asking, what about the books? This is a very good point. We haven't talked too much about books today. I was getting onto the subject of plagiarism with writing, and it just sort of spiraled from there, as conversations like this tend to do. But we're getting to the hour mark. So I'm gonna start to wrap this up with books. Again, our book of the month for January is Pawn of Prohpecy by David Eddings. You can find it on Amazon. You can also find it on Audible. There are audiobooks of these if audiobooks are more to your taste. Garfy Mao is asking, did you mention next month's writing theme? I got a commercial. Yes, I did. I did mention it, and I will mention it again. It is The Hobbit in the style of newspaper articles. And so I'm hoping to see lots of people go crazy with this one, because I think this one could be a lot of fun. Temple is saying, I took a cinema class in high school in which we talked about film as literature, which is an interesting way to look at it. And it's true. What the... Sorry, my chat just went crazy. Okay, so... Oh, God, the chat is just going nuts here. Do you have... Jan is asking, do you have to rewrite something in the book, or can you write an entirely new story with characters from The Hobbit? I'd like for us to stick to situations or scenes that are from The Hobbit, just to sort of keep it focused, or things that might be alluded to from The Hobbit. Like, for instance, the Rewrite Tolkien winner for last month wrote a story about Thorin being visited by the spirit of Gandalf in order to motivate him to go to the Lonely Mountain. So yeah, there's a lot of possibilities here. But I would say use the characters as at least your starting point. So, need to jump back up here a little bit. Oh man, the chat. Oh boy. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just... Okay. Okay, so Garfy Mao just gave a good example of something that you could use, like the Lonely Mountain rumbles. What could the source be? Is the dragon awake, or is it just an earthquake? Something like that. Like, I would say the more sensational, the better. So yeah. That brings us to the hour. So again, look up Pawn of Prohpecy. I'll post some links on the Facebook page for Pawn of Prohpecy. I will also post more stuff about Rewrite Tolkien. Deej, who is another one of our staffers who runs the Rewrite Tolkien contest, is going to be posting the winner and the runner-up. And Temple is saying, just a reminder, the book of the month is not available on Kindle or Kobo in e-reader format. Probably not as a standalone. It might be available as part of the bigger series, because several years ago they took the entire series and compressed it into a big 2-volume book set. So the first book, I think, is actually now the first 3 books, but we're just focusing on the one. Barring that, you should probably be able to find it standalone at a local bookstore. So yeah. So Deej will be posting the winner for Rewrite Tolkien tomorrow on theonering.net. She'll be posting the text of it, along with some runners-up, and along with the topic for January. So that's it. I just want to bring up Eva's fan art again because I think it's awesome. This is so cool. I love this. So yeah. So as I said earlier in the show, we're going to be moving this show from every week to every 2 weeks. So there won't be new Torn Book Club next week, but there will be the week after. So that's going to be the pattern going forward. We might go every week when we get closer to the release of There and Back Again, because there will be a lot of stuff to talk about. So Light of the King is saying our next meeting is the 19th. That is correct. Sunday the 19th will be our next show. And thank you all so much for joining in. And Happy New Year again. And I will see you next week.